Howdy and welcome back. This is session 0. It's going to be the first one uploaded on the channel. Basically, I'm going to be starting to upload D&D sessions that I have with my Sunday group up on the channel because I figured it might be something good. I enjoyed recording the first session already. That's going to be uploaded second, but I figured before I actually put up the first one, I should actually give a little insight as to the happenings of what has happened in the world so far with our party, and each character's backstory, just general stuff about them, other than what's portrayed on the screen, as you can see, such as our racing class. Our DM, the guy I'll be speaking with right now, is AllaganGaming, also known as Troy. He's a very good friend of mine, and we kind of met through D&D, and we've just kind of grown closer because of it. And we're just here to kind of tell you about the world, the nice itty-gritty, that's the word, right?
Yeah, basically.
And just give you all the need-to-know stuff.
And like you said, my name is Troy Smith. I'm also known as Valor the Allagan Gamer. I do Twitch as well as YouTube, or I'm going to be getting back into YouTube. Both you can find at Allagan Gaming. And yes, we are going to be going over the world that we have been playing for half a year?
Yeah, I think so. Also, I will make sure to link down below in the description the link to both his Twitch and his YouTube page. So go make sure to go there.
The same as well.
Yeah, go subscribe to both and follow. Hit that bell. Give him a like.
And also a disclaimer to see if you are viewing this on mine as well, or even if you're viewing this in the stream right now. Sometimes Travis's audio breaks up on my end. I don't know why. It's through Discord. I guess his streaming and his videos are fine when he speaks through his microphone, but the internet connection through Discord will sometimes make it chop up.
Well, it's probably because
if that happens, hopefully I can ask for either clarity or we can use our insightfulness to figure it out.
Yeah, it's probably because you're directly inputting it into your device and it doesn't require an internet connection.
What, you?
Like mine perfectly picks up my voice with no interruptions, and yours.
No, it's not. It's not on my side because the same thing happens with Zach and basically everybody else when you're speaking through Discord,
your voice on your computer, your voice will come out perfect because you're directly putting it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yes, I get what you're saying.
Okay. So basically, let's start off with the basis knowledge of the characters that's portrayed in front of you on mine. My character is Ven. He's a tiefling warlock hexblade who has made a pact with strangely enough, a fae instead of a creature from the Shadowfell. He has created a pact with a red cap. And for those of you who don't know, a red cap is a fey creature born in the Feywild that was born of hatred and bloodlust. They collect blood and have to keep blood in their, thus the name red cap on their head. And if they don't, and they, in a sense, starve, they turn to stone. And so, kind of in an effort to expand his hunting territory, my patron reached out to me saying, hey, I'll give you powers if you go around and collect blood for me from just about anything. No real discrimination. He does prefer that I do kill things with hatred due to his
by your hatred.
Yes, due to his red cap nature. Battle hot blood is better than just a bucket of blood that I get from the butcher. But nonetheless,
he doesn't like that all too much.
Yeah, but nonetheless, if I need to do it to keep him fed, it's something that I'm sure he, as far as I know, it's just something that he kind of not really understands, but he just kind of has to go with. But My character's background is an officer, since they come from, in Troy's world, the desert oasis city of Mava. He was a military officer there, where he mostly grew up in the military and quickly grew through the ranks with the help with Skyronema. Eventually, he closely followed orders and never really disobeyed. But eventually, that came to his somewhat downfall, as I should first explain that his parents never told him why he was a tiefling, and in fact, he was forcefully enlisted into the military by his parents because of how horrified they were of me being a tiefling. Now, when I follow back about maybe 15 years, around when I'm 22, I was sent on a mission by my commanding officer to go out and patrol in the desert through a particularly dangerous part, and following orders, I agreed and sent my troops out, sent my squad, and we were ambushed by a legion of demons. And these demons quickly laid to waste my men and almost me, until I found out that one of the demons had been disguising themselves as my commanding officer nearly my entire life. And I'm only going to say everything I know about my character so far. Well, everything my character knows about himself. But eventually, I did win that battle by myself, slaughtering the demons that blew through my squadron, taking the heart of the Nalfeshni who led the slaughter. And thus, I gained a hatred for all demons and quickly became an adventurer to kind of go about slaying demons of any kind. But eventually my character found out through communication with some primordials, we'll get into that later, that my character, before even his birth, was selected by the demon lord Grazit, the Lord of Indulgence, for his spirit to never pass on into the afterlife. Now, what that means is that when his body dies, his soul is transferred to another marked tiefling of Grazit, and that I take over that body completely. I grow an additional tail in that body to correspond to how many bodies I have controlled. Right now, I have 2. I have died once, but I figured out about the curse before I died the first time. And basically, that's all you need to know about my character's backstory.
Yep, that's all you need to know about his character's backstory.
We'll go into the I don't want to go through all the events of the story of what's gone through so far, because I figured that's a whole totally different subject. I just wanted to go through the background. But yeah, who should we talk about next?
Next on my list is Shard. We know almost, or at least the party knows almost jack squat about him. They actually just fairly recently learned that his name is Lucian.
Yeah, in fact, just Shard. This session.
Yeah, they literally did just this session, which will actually be posted up a little bit later after this in session 1. Yeah, his character, he goes by Shard, but they found out that his character's name is Lucian, and he's got a scar that goes on his face, but it's normally covered up because he's an assassin rogue.
Yeah.
That's about it. That's not about him. Oh, the next pair that I've got.
All right.
Freehez and poetry.
All right.
Oh, also to say that Shard is played by the player Zachary, that is in our game.
Yes. He, as you all can see on the screen you're seeing, he is a high elf. but he never the only people that have really, well, I guess most of us seen it except Fahana. So Fahana's the only one that doesn't know he's a half elf, actually.
High elf.
High elf, right.
But you completely cut out on my end.
Oh well, not important. Anyways, again, not much is known about Shard. He's pretty elusive. He speaks very minimally, with speaking as few words as possible, unless he has some input that he'd like to say. He's a very open person, very open about his opinions and his somewhat morals. He's the kind to believe that if you can get away with doing it, then do it kind of guy.
Stab first, ask questions later.
Yeah, but he's not completely evil. He's not going to go on a serial killing spree, as far as what I can tell. But now that's basically all we can really say about Shard, because he's quite an elusive character. Zach's done a good job of keeping his whole thing a secret. At least for me. I'm sure he's told you a lot.
You completely cut out on that last block of stuff that you just said.
I'm sure he's told you a lot about Shard's backstory, but I myself don't know much about him. He remains a mystery.
I will not say anything that has not been revealed.
Exactly.
So, next up, Sean's characters.
Which one should we do first?
So Sean's got two different characters. He's got a tiefling a tiefling that has recently been resurrected by his daughter. We'll get into that a little bit later. And he also has a goblin character that he's playing in the meantime until this one ended up getting resurrected. Not by Sean's knowledge. This was something that I had already schemed up behind the scenes.
Yeah, we were all surprised.
Yeah, everybody was shocked when they were like, "Oh yeah, hey, yeah, Harlequin, you're alive," and it's like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, we kind of TPK'd again.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, but yeah, Blood and, well, his name at the time was Harlequin. Blood was my character's original name. And they kind of grew to be like the rivalry best friends, like the tough on each other. But Harlequin is a part of a leatherworking guild. In the the continent's capital city, Valen. In which he grew up learning the working of leather, making leather armor, sword sheaths, all that fun stuff. But he also learned bardic magic from a pixie?
So, in his time before he became an adventurer, he had basically these dreams and premonitions of going to the Feywild and then making friends with a pixie called Lynette. And he ended up bringing over that Fey power into his music and his performances, which he became a glamour bard.
Yeah, it's definitely a good way of describing it, because normally when people make people don't have much explanation on why they learned glamour bard, since it is a Fey magic. It's kind of hard to come up with some sort of backstory to describe how exactly you got Fey magic in the material plane.
So one thing to note about Harlequin, or now known as poetry, is that when Sean originally gave me very, very, very basic ideas on what his character's background was, and it was leatherworking. And then I took that and I was like, okay, well, that doesn't explain anything of his Fey powers or where his bard stuff comes from. For those of you who know Sean well at all, you know that one of his favorite anime characters is Fairy King Harlequin from Seven Deadly Sins, which is what Harlequin, that's kind of where the name comes from. And so I was like, okay, well, he definitely likes fairies, so let's put some fairies into his backstory. And then with the trial of the Raven Queen, he remembered about his past, and he was like, oh fuck, I need to go see that pixie again. I completely forgot about her all
And
these years.
boy, did
Boom.
that turn out well. What? Again.
Hey, arc.
But then again, we'll get into that later.
Yep.
All right, now Freehez. Freehez is actually has a direct correlation with poetry, because on a session that I wasn't present for because I had work and all that, I wasn't able to attend. Poetry thought that they came across a rowdy bunch of goblins who had been stealing livestock or something. Is that right?
They had been stealing and eating the livestock of a nearby farmer, and the farmer was like, hey, come put it into this.
Yeah, and I guess somewhere along the line, Harlequin's a good nature by default. He's very much an optimist. He always likes to see the best in people. And so instead of doing what my character would do and just immediately slaughter the goblins, he decided to talk to the goblins and actually convinced them to turn good. He taught them how to raise their own food, like grow their own food, how to get their own supplies and all that without harming or doing bad stuff to others, which they actually learned to do, which eventually led them to make their own adventuring guild for monstrous races known as... Okay, I'm gonna say this, and I need the comment section to listen with an open mind. I'm gonna say this right now, the DM, for some reason, wasn't thinking about the obvious bad sound that this guild's name had.
What do you mean I wasn't thinking about it? I knew it full well what I was doing.
Oh, well then, I need you
That's
not...
worse! That's worse!
I need you not to judge Troy on this. But they eventually, when they started becoming good, they formed a clan named the Click Clock Clan.
Also known as the CCC.
Now, comments, just stop, please. Please, no, it's not like that. Please. Obviously, my character wasn't too happy about monstrous races being, he was skeptical of them, but I digress. Eventually, they formed their own adventuring guild, the Click Clock Guild, and Freehez was taught the ways of a cleric and started worshipping what god?
Freehez started originally. He was when he was starting to figure out his holy quest. He originally was under the god of Mistra, which is the goddess of all magic. And then he decided to, at some point in time, turn away from that once he actually started playing Freehez as a character to be a cleric of Titania, which is one of the Archfey.
Yeah.
And he's a war cleric.
And that he was introduced before poetry got revived from the dead. And he's kind of who, for a session or two, then ran around with, considering I kind of knew Freehez, and I knew his connections with the party, and even though my character at first begrudgingly was, and very skeptically, was looking for any wrongdoing the Click Clock Guild did, due to a promise that was between poetry and blood, but... eventually, he came to accept them, and they're now friends, and they party together. And that's pretty much it for Sean's character's backstory.
Yep, and now there's Kevin's character, Loki. So this one's gonna take a little bit of explaining for me because of what his race is. His race is what I call an Inari, which is, in my world, a race that is a mix between a human and an animal between some type of magical influence long in the past.
For those, if I may butt in, just for a simple explanation, for those of you who have watched RWBY, they're pretty much literally the Faunus. That's pretty much them. And
Can
as
you
far
say
as
that one more time, because you cut off right when you said the word on my end?
they're pretty much the word, what's called Faunus in RWBY physically. That's just them, except they have the exact stats as a Tabaxi.
Yep. So pretty much until I get actual stats, he's using Tabaxi stats because he is a cat Inari. So basically, he's a humanoid that just has cat ears, some sharp claws, and a cat tail.
Neko.
Which I modeled it after the Final Fantasy XIV Makote. And I think Final Fantasy XI had a similar race. I think it's called the Mithra or something like that. So it's pretty much modeled after those. And he plays Final Fantasy XIV, and Loki is direct from his character in Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
He is an arcane trickster rogue. He's just kind of a go with the flow kind of guy.
Yeah, we literally just picked, back when I was playing my in-between character, before Ven came into it and I was resurrected, I was kind of playing a Goliath fighter named Hitstuff, and we just kind of picked Loki up off the road on our way to save a talon that was getting attacked by Ettercaps.
He was just a stray cat.
We literally just picked him up and said, "You're one of us now."
Yep, that's pretty much what happened.
And ever since then, he's just been kind of going with the flow of the party.
Yeah.
And
then, do you have any more things to say about Loki?
Not really. He likes to mock a lot.
Mm-hmm. The last one that we have, I've got a little bit of explaining to you, but I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want to spoil anything for Travis and anybody from our session that's going to be watching this. Jennifer's character, Fahana. At the very beginning of the session, or at the very beginning of when she was introduced, and she wasn't introduced but several sessions ago. She is a school from the School of the Magi, which is in the magic city of Levia on the continent of Altheria, which is where everything takes place. And she was basically recruited to help stop the monstrous. There's several monstrous races going around destroying towns or causing damage, and she was basically recruited from there. So she went to the main city of Valen, the capital city. There, while they're waiting for instructions, went to a magical pastry shop called the Wild Delight Bakery. Based off the name, you can probably tell it's got some wild magic infused in their pastries. She had a couple cupcakes, and a whole bunch of crazy shit happened. She ended up going to the ethereal plane for a minute. She also ended up summoning a unicorn, along with Travis's in-between character, Hitstuff. He had a unicorn, too. And she also summoned a box-like creature. For those of you who know D&D well, it's a Modron that kind of just sits on her waist and is just kind of observes everything.
Yeah, don't do much.
He doesn't do much.
He doesn't do anything, actually.
Yeah. At this point in time, he really just observes. That's all. That's kind of what he even told Fahana when he was summoned too. And he's like, "Hey, can you just take me around to, I want to see the world. I want to see where everything is." And that's kind of what he did. Now she kind of uses him as like a little purse for coins.
Yeah, it's just like a walking bank account telling you you're spending too much money.
Yep. She also got a unicorn that was named Vegrim, which stayed with her for quite a while. But normally when you have these wild magic cupcakes, they're supposed to vanish after a while. But for some reason they didn't. Neither of the unicorns did. Neither did Boxy, the Modron.
Yeah.
After a while, she ended up being, by some mysterious force, being sent back in time 5,000 years. And she still doesn't understand how, and she's still trying to figure out how and why. And she met a couple individuals while she was back in time that's like, "Why are you even here?" or she actually, well, she doesn't know, but the other players were like, why are they even there? And then when she came back to the present date, and her body was left in the present date in corporeal, and like Vin's character even slapped her at one point, or maybe Fitz stuff.
I was trying desperately to wake her up.
One of them tried to slap her to wake her up, and she felt it from the other side. She ended up eventually waking up, and now she has a stone of what she found out a little bit later is crystallized ether, which is another Final Fantasy reference, of crystallized magical energy that's in her shoulder, like near her shoulder and her chest in between. And nobody else can see it but her. She doesn't know why yet. All she knows is that it's condensed ether. She doesn't know why other people see it. There's a lot of mysteries around her character right now, but all will be revealed at some point in time. So yeah, that's Fahana's character. She's a very, very she's a transmutation wizard, wood elf, and she's a very, very bubbly personality.
Very bubbly.
Very bubbly. So I think that's about all for the character backstories.
Yeah, really there is. Alright, so if that all covers the character backgrounds and descriptions, we should go straight into, I guess, from the beginning.
Yeah. Session 00. The actual true Session 0.
Yeah.
You guys ended up joining the Emerald Scale Guild Hall, which is an adventurers guild. You received a note, and you're like, hey, and there's an Emerald Scale inside of it, and it's like, hey, come to this place in Norwich.
Yeah, we started off at level 1, like straight up.
2.
Oh, level 2.
Yeah.
And so when we joined, my character was, of course, the very just silently observe kind of guy. I just kind of looked around and looking for the other people. Eventually, we were grouped together, and was there like an initiation quest or something?
So there was kind of an initiation quest. You guys ended up having to try to find the Emerald Scale Guild Hall, and you guys had to walk out into the forest, seemingly to nowhere. You guys met a white dragonborn named Razgar, who recently came back up in the current session that we just filmed. And we just did. Razgar is a white dragonborn Eldritch Knight, who at this time was way more powerful than they were. But with their numbers, there's 5 of them at the time, they were able to whittle down Razgar, at least to a point to where it was enough for another Emerald Scale member to come in and cast Polymorph on him and turn him into a chicken.
Yeah, I remember when I was broken, even at level 2.
Yeah. And in some cases, you still are.
Yeah.
However, I have found more broken ways to make a warlock.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
So, yeah, you guys then they took you back to the Emerald Scale Hall, and you guys became members. That was kind of session 0s. The people that were in that group was a half-orc paladin named Valdox. There was Zachary's first carrier, Arian, who was a high moon elf fighter. He then also gained a level in Warlock for the Raven Queen. There's also Muriel, the Wood Elf Druid. Muriel and Valdox didn't stay for very long. There's Harlequin, at that time known as Harlequin, the Tiefling of Glamour Bard. And then you have Ander Blood Aster.
Yep. And, alright, so after we, Azura, female tiefling. I'm looking at the,
That's what I am too.
Alright, so
first quest.
So
that was a doozy.
We, went out, we gathered together for our first quest, which was to, gather Ettercap Fangs, which is used as a material component in some spells for and the quest was made by a mage that was in the magic city of Levia. And I had decent pay, so we figured, hey, if we do well enough, we can get paid a lot for this. So we all gathered and we accepted it. And we immediately went out to go and take care of them. And oh boy, it was a doozy.
So here's what happened. They went in and they killed a couple letter caps and they got their fangs and like, okay, cool. How about we keep going further into the forest and see what more we can get?
Yeah. Okay.
They almost TPK'd on the first quest.
Oh yeah. Yep.
They were very, very close.
Very close.
Yeah. And then, but they stayed alive. They managed to come back with some other cap and get some gold from that. And then we had a couple off sessions. 1 week there was a session just between Harlequin and Blood, which was where they confronted rebels. They were given a quest by a mother of to get back her son and a couple of his friends who set off to become bandits.
Oh boy. And you know what? She even said that to scare them a little, intimidate them, make them afraid. And so my character at the time saw this as perfect for his skill set. As a literal demon man, he thought to it that it would be very easy to go and put them in their place. And so eventually we did. We found them. As they actually, I believe they tried to rob us.
Who else found them too?
Like where we found them?
No. Who else found them? So while you guys were, I think they did try to rob you, but then you ended up scaring them shitless.
Well, I know it says here that they're giving an elderly man some trouble. They were probably trying to take what little coin the old man had.
Yes. And then you guys stepped in and then scared them shitless.
I punched a kid.
Yep, you punched one of them. And what happened right after that? Who else came?
Well, after that, and we were leading them back to the city, they're like back to their mother. Well, turns out the bandit group that they actually joined didn't like that we were taking their newest recruits out of their group, and they decided to ambush us, in which we were knocked out. They didn't kill us or nothing, they just knocked us out, and they took the kids and left. They just straight up ditched us there, took the kids, and ran. And so, obviously, when we wake up, we're like, alright, we're not doing anything until this quest is done, so we go and we track down the kids. Well, first we went to drop off a letter to the headmaster of Levia. I forget why.
Was it the other cats? It's probably.
Oh yeah. They went off to deliver the quest completion. They went to finalize the quest and get it turned in. I went along with them because I was also like, all right, I guess it can wait for a second, because Scaranima, my hexblade weapon used to be a longsword, until I thought it'd be much more stylized and conventional to make it a special sickle that deals the same damage as a longsword. Again, we'll get to that in a short bit, but I went to a magic shop in Levia to try to upgrade Scaranima, where I stumbled upon a very high-end magical shop named the Wishbone, only to find out that I could not afford anything there. Of course, I went into it I mean, of course, as a player, I know that I wasn't going to be able to afford anything, but I figured the naivete of a level 2 person and wanting magical items, they should quickly find out that it's not that easy. And the clerk at this store was a skeletal man in very, very dapper attire, named Samir, who I quickly kind of got on the bad side of after trying to use the suggestion spell to...
He did not like that.
Yeah.
And he basically gave you a strike. He was like, hey, don't do that again, or things gonna get shit. Shit's gonna be getting shit in here.
And
what did you do afterwards?
After that, we eventually... I went to go to a different magic item shop.
And what did you try there?
I tried charming the shopkeeper using suggestion again into upgrading the sword for free.
And it worked.
Well, correction. Well, yeah, it worked. And so he was just... And so, he said, oh yeah, it'll take 2 days. And so I was like, okay, cool, it worked. I'm gonna get this. And so he said, oh yeah, you have to leave it here for 2 days. I was like, oh, okay, just make sure you give it some blood. I'll explain later. And he was like, okay, begrudgingly. And then after that time, we all went back to the shop.
Wore off.
Eventually, we all go back after 2 days, and we find the store had been completely closed down. Just completely shut down, never to open again. And we found that both the shopkeeper and Skyronema was gone.
As long as a lot of his stuff.
I was furious. We eventually we waited until night when we broke into the shop to kind of see what we could find, as well as one of the party members wanted to steal a magical dagger that was in the shop. After that, we quickly dispatched to find the shopkeeper, who was heading out in the forest with, wouldn't you know, the bandits that we had run into earlier. We found that the shopkeeper was trying to sell Skyronema to these bandits. With some careful, decisive planning and strategizing, we were able to retrieve Skyronema from the bandits without much conflict, as we knew that it would be hard for just us to take on these bandits alone. So we carefully did it so that way we wouldn't have a full-on skirmish on our hands.
Harlequin just used the invisibility spell and kind of just went in and boop.
Yeah. Then we headed back to Levia to notify the town's guard about the bandits, and as well as the kidnapped children who were there with the bandits in their small camp, tied up and beaten.
They tried to leave, and they're like, no, you're ours now, bitch.
Yeah, after we tell them about that, we head out in the morning after getting some rest and along with the guard, and well, not along with the guard, but we went to see how they were doing, and we found that the camp was deserted, as well as a good amount of guards scoping it out, having no luck finding where they went. Let's see. And that's kind of where that session ended.
And then we get to the session that was just for Zachary. At the time was playing Aryan. This is where the Wildlight Bakery came into existence.
My God, do I hate this thing.
He took a taste testing quest.
Straight up, so they said, hey, we need someone to test our food. Come on down and we'll pay you to eat.
Yeah, and by the way, it's got some magic, so liability issues.
We're gonna need to sign here and here and here.
Yeah, they end up paying Aryan to come in, and also there's another adventurer. Her name was Annabelle. She's now a member of the Emerald Sirens, which you guys will see during session 1 or hear a little bit about. Annabelle goes along with them, and they end up eating on some cupcakes, and some wild magic shit happens. Look in the player's handbook under sorcerer, under wild sorcerer. You'll see the table. There's some wild shit that happens.
Except, oh, do you use exactly the wild magic table?
I use it as kind of a template since it's minor wild magic. Depending on what it is, sometimes I'll just let the full effect happen. Sometimes I'll like minimize the effect.
Gotcha.
So that it's not like lethal or deadly or something. However, he did at that point blow up a cup by accidentally casting magic missiles. Yeah, I remember that. I remember there being glass everywhere too, and I think the main lady ended up cutting her hand. What was her name again?
I don't remember. I wasn't here for this.
I know. I'm looking at the notes to see if I wrote it down somewhere. Did I really not write that down? Is that the one thing I did not write down? That sucks. Nope, I didn't write her name down. I know she was a wood elf. That's it.
Yeah, you were.
But yeah, she ended up cutting her hand, and then they had like patch her up and stuff, and she's like, "I'm okay, I'm okay." Okay. Next is Rifts on Mount Terran. You guys started this session, I believe, to finish off the bandits, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't here for this because this is when Truck was introduced.
Oh yeah, you weren't here for this. When did you guys finish off the bandits?
At
some point, the bandits came to an end, and they were able to get the kids back and safely bring them back over. I guess I didn't write that down at any point.
After some more scaring.
Yep. And then this is when we started using Roll20 this next session, and then Travis had to work a couple extra weeks on. He had to work a couple extra weeks before he was able to do the online sessions. And then we also had a new player that came in with a lizard folk grave cleric named Truck. Truck lasted 2 sessions. They went to Mount Terran to investigate a surge of earth elemental energy, which this actually happened one of our recent sessions as well. And they basically went in and they found some Galdur earth elementals, and they basically got their shit kicked in.
Yeah.
They almost CPK'd. If it wasn't for some clutch NPC BS that came in, it wasn't really BS. It's Hannah, an NPC that originally at this point was part of the Sapphire Fangs Guild. Basically ended up using a spell. I don't even remember which spell it was, but to incapacitate the Galadurs. But it was like clutch, and then they got everybody out safely. Oh yeah, they did. So the session that they recently had with Mount Terran, they didn't succeed. I just remember they didn't succeed this quest either. Mount Terran is just not your guys' place. Truck, the lizard folk cleric, him here. It was a clockwork amulet that basically, if he could basically use it once a day, and it'll give an automatic roll on a die as a 10. It came from the plane of Mechanus. Then we have Journey to Mava. I think this was still before Blood came in. Back in the party, they said, they had to deliver a package to the Temple of Maliki.
Was I
from the Temple of Maliki to the Temple of Ayun and Mava? No, you weren't here on this one.
All right, I'll just leave describing.
And they ran into some Peritons on the way there, and this is where Truck, the lizard folk cleric who lasted 1 session, met his end. Unfortunately. And then he ended up making a druid dwarf. Butterbeard. Yep, a druid dwarf named Butterbeard. But anyway, they ended up going over. They had to fight off some Thrycreen in the desert as they're going to Mava, and then they go to the Axe Handle Ale, and Norchiviel can deal with it. Yeah. And they drop off the package. I also think that this was the session that they didn't collect their reward.
Really?
Yeah. They forgot to collect the reward.
Oof.
And then session 5 came around, also known as the Click Clock Clan. This is the one where they took a quest from an elderly halfling that owns a farm that was very, very crotchety, that rewarded them with an Eyes of the Eagle magic item, which basically lets you see really, really far and gives you advantage on perception checks. And they had to go and take out the Click Clock clan, and they ended up befriending the Click Clock clan.
As I described in the background.
And they ended up eventually bringing them back to the Emerald Scale, to where they learned how to become a leather workers, and then some of them kind of did their own thing, and then they're like, you know what? Nah, let's become adventurers. Then later on, they made their own guild.
Yep.
Actually, after that.
Actually, no. The next session is where we took care of the bandits. But yeah.
Next session.
When this is where I got back and work was no longer really an issue. But I rejoined the party. We found the whereabouts of the bandits. We set off, and again through concisive planning, we got the 2 kids. We pretty much killed all the bandits. We were pretty roughed up though. Brought them back, collected the reward, picked up a new quest to track down goblins. Which I thought, after hearing about the Click Clock Guild, I was thinking, oh, it already got bad. It already isn't working well. So I went into that quest with a smile on my face. Turns out it wasn't the Click Clock Guild.
Nope, wasn't the Click Clock Guild.
And once we did that, we killed goblins, collected the reward, and that was that. Now the next...
So, just to let you know, you're cutting out a lot right now. Maybe somebody's using the microwave. Who knows?
Maybe. I'm in the green, so...
Okay. But on Discord, you're cutting out a lot, and on my end.
Oh.
So, you guys, yeah, I don't, it wasn't, it was, oh, I remember you guys ended up going to a goblin cave with some goblins and some bugbears. It was out in the forest near Grimfell, but it was out a little bit. Near Oakhurst, I believe. And
gotcha.
then you guys took a quest to search for the Staghorn Lily. Oh, this one. So the Staghorn Lily was a flower needed for a magical potion or something. They didn't really know, but they needed it to be able to fulfill the quest. In order to find this Staghorn Lily, they had to search for a planar rift, also known for Feywilds and for Shadowfells as a Shadow Crossing or a Fae Crossing, because they grow where these rifts seem to be headed. So they decided to go near the Fae Crossing one. And they ended up going near the Dark Guardian tree, and then some Fae bullshittery happened. They first had to fight off a Displacer Beast.
Which we quickly dispatched.
Yeah, you quickly dispatched that one. And then as they're camping out, some little quicklings decided to come in and play some tricks on them and, you know, kind of try to
didn't end well for a lot of them.
Items. Some of their valuable items. And so they had to track them down, and they ended up murdering all of them.
Hey man, don't steal my stuff.
And then...
Well, the Blink Dogs.
Yes, you were attacked by Blink Dogs as well.
That led to the first conflict between Blood and Harlequin.
You're cutting out. What did you say?
That led to the first conflict between Blood and Harlequin, because Blood saw these things coming in, and them looking pretty beast-like. I immediately jumped in and started, well, killing them. Even though they weren't doing anything to us. And so, you can still hear me, right?
You were cutting out quite a bit.
Yeah, I saw
what he was saying was basically Blink Dogs weren't actually bad, but he started blasting them, and then Harlequin was like, what the fuck, man?
And then led to the first feud, but we quickly got over it. Then the Quicklings thing happened. Then we got some rest, and we went to where the... Alright, give me 1 quick second.
Sure thing. 1 second later. Future me, remember to edit this out.
Are you... Disconnect your phone from the internet for a second?
Future me, don't cut this out. This is great.
Of Crunchyroll for a second? We're trying to get the Discord chat to remain constant as we're currently recording session 0.
Travis, I can hear you fine now.
And it's not going to be good if... Alright, let me try and see if I can...
When you were out there, I could hear you fine.
Of course.
I heard you coming through, and I'm like, oh, I can hear it. Like, it's false. And then as soon as you came in and shut the door, everything started lagging a little bit. Like, a video screen even started lagging.
Oh.
I think...
maybe it's the door. Hold up. Maybe if I open the door, it'll be better.
I don't know, maybe. That would be great if that solves all of our issues.
Alright. Hold on. Be quiet out there so no one hears your shit talk!
You cut out a little bit.
I was just pretty much telling them to be quiet. So, next up, what happened, got back, we rested up and headed toward the lilies were supposed to be, which led us to a big tree that was across a pond, which we stole a boat and crossed the lake, and we encountered a red cap.
Yes.
As well as another mysterious entity. Of course, seeing a red cap, I was like, ooh. After we fought them off, though, as they definitely appeared hostile, Skyrenema didn't have any issue with me killing them, so that was good. We retrieved the lily and made a quick stop to the florist shop.
So before we continue with that mysterious entity, what did he keep doing to you guys? Do you remember?
It kept making us feel emotions. Right?
It kept poofing some type of dust or powder or something into your guys' faces and making you run in random directions.
Oh, yeah.
So this entity is also called as, or is also known as a fairy dragon.
Okay. Prankster.
Yeah. It was an invisible fairy dragon that just poof, poof, poof.
After that, we made a quick stop into a floor shop run by the family we saved. After we had a small interaction with them, we went back to deliver the lily, and we collected our reward. That was a bag of holding. Who had the bag of holding?
I don't know who had it, but you guys ended up selling it, and we'll get to that.
But I mean, it's gone. As Sean has reminded me, Harlequin is the one who was holding it.
No.
You cut out on that end, but you said Harlequin, and then
you sold it because Harlequin died.
Oh right, I sold it because Harlequin died.
Yes. Well, we were going to get to that. That's why I said you don't have it anymore.
Right. But
so next session.
This is
match with the Eder caps.
Okay, so in place of the absent Butterbeard, we got one of the Levia's school students or teachers, or I can't remember.
It was Hannah.
Yeah, Hannah.
Hannah, the wizard that went with the Mount Chan quest when you weren't there.
We ventured off. We decided to go off in the forest because we saw that the Ettercap quest had gone up again. And we decided, you know what? Time for some payback. We're stronger now. Little did we know that as the first one we encountered was bigger.
Yep.
Being ridden by a drow. And it had a magic sigil inscribed on it that apparently was an anti-magic field that had a 5-foot radius.
It had an anti-magic field around it. I think it was 10 foot. But there's an anti-magic field around the Ettercap.
Yeah.
So magic did shit to it.
Yep. And so, obviously, struggled by this, I quickly just resorted to, you know, what Hexblade should actually be doing and went melee. And because you'll see that in later fights, I'm a very Eldritch Blast guy. I pretty much just chose Skyronema and like Hexblade due to the benefits that it gets me, because it gets some pretty cool features. But after we killed the giant Ettercap, but the Drow got away.
And I'd also like to add that in the Drow's noviceness at the time, she even sometimes forgot that there was an anti-magic field around the Ettercap, and ended up sometimes breaking her own concentration on some spells such as Fairy Fire and Web, and even ended up trying to blast through it, and it just didn't work because she kept forgetting.
Yeah.
Also due to DM error, but we're gonna just say that it's the Drow's fault.
But after that, let's see. After that, we decide, no, we're not done yet. And so what did we do? We went further.
So the Drow ended up getting away. They're like, no, you guys were like, no, we're not done. And then, yeah, you went further and again.
And how else do you think that went? About as good as the last time we went for round 2. We barely escaped there.
One person did not.
Well, Harlequin died. Yeah. And we had to quickly come up with the money for a raised dead spell, which is why I sold the Bag of Holding,
as well as the Eyes of the Eagle.
Yep.
They needed that moolah to be able to resurrect Harlequin.
And he was brought back to life. All was well. And we quickly found out that the Click Cluck clan had now decided they were going to relocate into the Emerald Scale Guild Hall.
Yep.
Which Blood was not happy about.
Yep.
Let's see, and that's...
Oh, I love this next arc.
Oh yeah, this is where things really started to kick off.
Yeah, this is when they stopped doing quests and then a story began. Pretty much. And they started doing things.
Auction Mayhem.
Auction Mayhem.
We saw that there was a quest posted up by a Garen Hukriel.
Hukriel, yeah.
And so we had to go to the city of Grimfell, meet at an inn called the Rat's Nest Inn, where we eventually got a message from the middle woman. We were given a set of masquerade masks and a message telling us to bring the masks to an auction where we would meet with our quest giver. After some stuff went a little down with Harlequin and Butterbeard, they were actually locked outside of the auction hall.
Mm-hmm.
But me and Blood and Arian were able to get in disguised. And we wait through the auction only for nothing to happen until our actual quest giver.
The black auction. The black market.
Yeah, Garen showed up, quietly told us that we needed to wait. After most of everyone left, there was still quite a good amount of people in there, but a lot of people were still gone. And eventually, a new auction started up, which was for the black market. Animals and beasts were brought out, and people bidded on them, as well as slaves. And when the women showed up, me and Arian decided, oh no, screw this, and we immediately started chaos.
Yep.
as to interrupt the auction.
Garen at first was not too happy about that because he was in fear of his daughter's life, who was one of those slaves.
Yes. Which we later found out was the reason he hired us, was to get his daughter out of it.
Yeah.
And when we caused chaos, we killed a lot of guards, and from some of the guards, actually, shadow demons started forming, but we quickly were able to dispatch of them. And after that, once it was pretty much clear, we set people free. We then went into the back, and we found a whole lot of other items, and, well, creatures and all that, where we found a man who was a werewolf. Connected to an arcane collar. We set him free. And I befriended an owlbear for a quick second.
Yeah, you did. And then you forgot about him, and then they ended up taking him away.
Yeah. After that, we went out saying, okay, this looks like we can wrap this up. Only to have what looked like some guards who were much more heavily armed than the actual city's guard come in and tell us what is going on.
Say that one time, you cut out.
They pretty much came in and said, you have some explaining to do.
Yep. So before we continue on with this story, fun fact: the auction is the very first DM. Is the very first session that I ever DM'd, and I reused that here. But the very first session that I DM'd was an 11-person session. Not but a couple minutes after getting in, one of the warlocks who had the invocation of many faces, mask of many faces, tried to impersonate as one of the head people who was conducting the auction, and then ended up just like looking right at the auctioneer guy, and then was like, "Hey," and then basically chaos broke out right at the very beginning. And then even players started like going against each other, and then started trying. And I was like, "Oh fuck, this is how 11 people session feels." Also, it took for an 11-person session in this combat. It took an hour and a half to go through 3 rounds.
Oh my lord!
It was a mess. Okay, so back to our campaign.
Yes. To the next session, Demogorgon's Madness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, no. Finding the cult of Demogorgon. After we were, kind of questioned and interrogated by, these guards, led by a Sergeant Zass and a heavily armored man named Bran, we learned we've soon found a collection of slaughtered bodies of the black market auctioneers, who were apparently slaughtered by a serial killer named X. After that all had its proceedings and all, we were freed of any suspicions and we were let go, but we did offer our services to help investigate, which led us to a warehouse that was marked on a map that the head auctioneer was carrying. We went there, we faced off against some animated swords that were in crates. And eventually, we came across a secret passageway in said warehouse that led us down to a basement, where we found a map written in blood that led us through a sewer system.
And also information that was going to say, hey, there's going to be some ritual starting pretty soon. You better get there fast.
Yeah, we knew we were on a timer, and so we quickly went to the map's location. And we got a little stuck at a door, which we quickly found out we had to use the hands of the 2 animated armors that were standing next to the door as key to the temple, as the door handle had handprints.
Y'all figured out that pretty quickly.
Yeah. We went inside and we faced some shadow versions of ourselves in one of the rooms. when we entered, we saw that there was a big stone statue of what I knew to be a statue of the demon lord Demogorgon. And so quickly, my interest was piqued at the thought of demons. And so we went into one room with some mirrors in which shadow versions of ourselves popped out. We had to fight them, and once we beat them, we collected a blue orb. After that, we put the orb into one of these statues' mouths. Since Demogorgon has 2 heads, we put it into the corresponding side. And we were like, okay, so we need 2 of them. So we went into the only other room, which was filled with,
gore of animals and
yes.
Things like that.
Do you remember how we found the red orb?
So how you found the red orb is that you saw a Quizit, a little demon thing, run into that room and then end up like burying itself within the husk of, I think, a bear or something like that. And then pretty much just popped out with the orb, and then you just Eldritch blasted him or something like that, and then it was done.
Then we collected the red orb, and we actually put it in the spot. And that opened a large door where we all kind of were horrified by this. We saw a shadow demon summon a literal, like pretty much in the flesh and blood, a kind of toned down body of the literal Demogorgon. Now, we were what, level 4 at this time?
Yep. Something like that.
And we're thinking, oh my god. He threw the Demogorgon at us. What the hell, Troy?
Yeah,
But-
I remember those expressions too.
And
then
but
Demogorgon appeared and then started marching towards you guys.
Nevertheless, as Blood's hatred of demons, he didn't think anything of it and started attacking it. We were later aided by someone, a vigilante gray tiefling that said his name was X. And so, after we defeated said pseudo-Demogorgon, turns out when it died, it unleashed a madness upon us, which affected every one of us.
Yeah, they all failed their saves. Including X. X failed his save too.
What was his madness?
I don't remember, but I think it was the reason what happened next was why it happened.
Okay, well, after that, he kind of attacked me.
Yeah.
And so, after some talking him down, he just, he started to calm down a little, but then a kind of dark version of our guild master appeared and said, hey, this guy needs to go. Like, not in the means of he needs to leave, he means I need to kill this guy.
This was after you guys left the lair.
Yes.
So a couple things happened in between that as well. So you guys ended up leaving the lair, and then you called Katif Mazas, who was the person the Inari that you guys were talking to, and basically got this little mini quest to do. Then after she got here, by the way, she also tried to use a what is that spell called? To be able to spy on people.
Scrying?
Scrying. She tried to use a scrying spell on somebody in the party at one point and ended up failing, so she couldn't figure out where you guys were. She tried again later and ended up succeeding. That's how she knew to come here. Her and Bran came here, and then you guys left out. You guys and Arian split up.
Yes.
You remember what Arian went to do?
Yes. I should explain first what each of our madness was. Mine didn't affect me too bad due to my characters already, their personality already had. Mine was,
You're cutting out a lot.
alright. My madness was basically violent. It's the best way to deal with everything.
Which
So
is pretty fun, so.
yeah. Arian's was, if people don't agree with me, I will beat them into submission.
This will come into play later.
And Harlequins believed everyone was out to kill him.
Yeah.
And so we split up, and Arian goes to collect his reward for the quest, for the auction, because we forgot about it. And he goes through all this trouble. He goes back to the inn, and he figures out, oh no, you need to go to,
Oakhurst.
Yeah. Little did he
Where-
know that the innkeeper actually forgot to tell him that the innkeeper herself had the reward.
Yep, the innkeeper had the reward, but she didn't think about it at the time. And Arian came in trying to collect the reward, and she was like, "Oh, well, Garen left back to his home."
And so he went to Garen's
By the
home.
way, I rolled a history check to see if she remembered about it, and she rolled that one.
Yeah. And so he frustratingly goes all the way to Oakhurst.
Yeah, it's not too far, but he had to go through the forest.
And he quickly found the inn and was like, "Hey, reward now." He was like, "But the reward is back at the inn." He was like, "I did not come all this way for nothing. You're going to give me something now."
Arian, roll a history check. This is where things went to shit. He remembered that his daughter
at the auction,
quote unquote, at the auction was worth 50 gold pieces, the same price that this ring was worth.
Which was the reward. And so he was like, "All right, I'll take your daughter then."
And then basically in an attempt to save his daughter again, he ended up giving Arian the deed to his inn that he ran in Oakhurst. Yeah, Arian had the deed. He was like, okay, and then he ended up just trying to go find you guys again.
Yeah,
back with you guys.
After that, me and Harlequin were intercepted by X. We had to fight him for a bit. He summoned an air elemental. Things weren't looking good, and so I talked him down.
You're cutting out a lot again.
We fought him. We fought X. I talked him down. But we are interrupted by a figure that looked like Rylan, our guild leader. He said that his name was Altair, and that he pursued this X but he manages to get...
You, went silent for, a good 2 seconds.
Okay. He said his name was Altair, and that he was pursuing X, but he didn't really explain why, which led me to believe that it was sketch, and so we protected X and let him get away. Altair wasn't happy with this and said, "You know what? No. You bitches will come with me." And which he transported us to... Well, actually, at first we didn't know, because we were brought into separate kind of things.
Okay, Travis, hold on 1 second.
You can explain.
After this, I want you to go and watch my video and just hear how jagged it is.
You can, yeah, it's bad. I'm sorry.
I know it's not necessarily your fault. It's just, you're really jagged. So, I'll go ahead and say that one more time for my end, if you couldn't hear Travis. He was basically, Altair came in and was trying to hunt down and basically take out X. By the way, X is basically this mass murderer, but X went after people who were immoral. So the first instance that they saw that X had done a massacre was at the auction house of people leaving the auction house who were in the black market area willing to buy slaves. So so technically, it's like this really moral gray zone.
He was a
Like,
vigilante.
He was a vigilante, but Altair came in and is like, no, we have to take him out. And then Blood and Harlequin basically were like, no, you're not going to take him out. And then it helped X get away. And then Altair was like, no, you bitches are coming with me now. And basically was like, and I think at this point, Altair was explaining the primordial stuff, which is why you guys agreed to go with him to meet the Raven Queen.
Yeah, but we didn't know we were meeting the Raven Queen.
Yeah, you didn't know you were meeting the Raven Queen at the time, but he was like, I need you to come and meet my boss, basically.
Yeah.
And he was explaining that the primordials defy the laws, the celestial laws of death, basically. And they needed them to come.
Yeah, we all, before we met the Raven Queen, we all went through our own separate trials. So
this is also like through these trials is where we kind of went over the backstories of Vin and Harlequin in actual detail.
I ended up
Vin's was a little bit different because it was kind of his past, but it was altered a little bit.
It was I had to pretty much rewatch the scene of my soldiers dying over and over and over again until I could correctly answer a question right about, you know, the morals of death and all that, the nature of death. I believe it was what, 267 times?
It was a lot.
Yeah.
So for my end, where Travis keeps cutting out, so basically for Blood's side, he went back into the past, basically when he originally met Skyrimima, except it was slightly altered a little bit to where he didn't have Skyrimima in this fashion yet. He went in and was going on this mission out in Meva deserts where there was some demons that were going to attack. This is where he found a Nalfeshne, who claimed to be his Vin superior, masquerading as Vin superior, along with some minor demons. Basically, the Nalfeshne killed Vin over and over and over again. Vin had no recollection. Every single time he came back, once his death was imminent, he would start like kind of flashing back to what his answers were to be able to give a different one. And it happened over and over, and I think we just chalked it up to being like over 200 something times.
267, I believe the number was.
I cannot believe you remember that. 200, let's say 267 then. 267 times Vin has died before he gave an answer. The question was phrased differently every single time he's died, or slightly differently. Basically the moral question was, what is the worth of your life compared to your enemies? And
like pretty much, why did you kill? It was something along the line. Pretty much the answer was, people have their time to die. If I'm the one who is to bring it to them, it will happen.
You're cutting out.
Oh, all right. I'll re-say it then. Pretty much the answer to the question was, everyone has their time to die. If it is me who will bring it to their end, it will happen that way.
Yeah. Well, the initial question was more, what is your life worth compared to theirs?
Yeah.
And then he ended up, and then I had an answer in my head that he was supposed to be able to try to get, and he gave an answer that was similar to it. So I like even during that session, I was like, I had to pause. This is similar, not quite on the dot, but this is similar. And then he ended up passing his test this way.
What was the actual answer?
What?
What was the actual answer?
I don't remember. So the actual answer was along the lines of, every soul is worth the same. Is what it was. There's a soul's life is not determined. They're all worth the same. They all follow the same code. later on, you'll figure out about some creatures that technically don't follow the same code or whose souls are different that need to be taken care of, and we'll get back to that.
But eventually, I was the only one who passed my trial, and my madness was cured.
Mm-hmm.
The others two, however, weren't, which I quickly realized.
So the trial that Aryan went through, which is Aryan is a worshiper of the Raven Queen.
Yes.
He ended up basically in his own head. His wasn't his past. He went in his own head, met a fellow called Nira, which I later revealed to everybody after Aryan's demise that Nira is literally Aryan spelled backwards. Nira was basically this entity in this head world where I don't even remember what the point of his test was. It was the worth of your own life. And he completely failed and thought, and like I didn't like give him the question outright, but he immediately was like, "Okay, if I'm stuck in my head," and he was like, and he was kind of in a loop little thing. He was in his own dimension. He was like, "Okay, well, in order to get out, what happens if I kill myself?" And then he kills himself, and then I just facepalm. I'm like, "No." And he basically gets scolded by the Raven Queen later. He's
So,
like, value your life. Do not just take and make it end for some tests, especially for something that you're not even sure what's happening. Harlequin, this is where we first actually went over his backstory of going into the Feywild and meeting Lynette the Fairy. And he didn't even know about this at the time. Like I never mentioned this to him. This was just something new, and he really liked it. He took into it very well. And he basically at night he would go into this dream state, and when he was asleep, he was in the Feywild, and he would play for Lynette the Fairy. And then he ended up. In the daytime, he would do his leatherworking stuff, and he was on a deadline, and he had to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And then there was like some checks that he had to make to see if he got the morale of his people up enough to be able to get the work done in time because they were on a tight deadline. And then while he was in his dream state in the Feywild, him and Lynette went off a little bit, or he went to find Lynette, and there was There was, I think it was Red Caps killing like some innocents.
It was a satyr.
Yes, they were hunting satyrs. Yes, and they ended up Lynette was like basically saying was just there watching, and then Harlequin tried to help the satyrs, and Lynette was like, "Why? Why are you doing this? What's the point?" And Harlequin was like, I don't know. It just feels right. And she was like, what makes their life, what makes the satyr's life worth more than the Red Caps? And then he was like, I don't know. They're doing bad. And it's like, what? And she was like, basically, it ended up like he ended up going. Oh, I remember what all the tests were. So for you, it was what is the worth of the life of your enemies. For Aryan, it was what is the life worth of yourself, and for Harlequin, it was what is a life worth of strangers. And because the answers were all the same, it's a life is worth the same. And basically him helping, he ended up failing the test. And the Raven Queen kind of went over with that in minor detail. And she started describing about how there were a loose set of primordials.
Pretty much saying, yo. So the way I took it was, you interrupted the mission, so guess what? It's now yours.
Yeah. And she basically commissioned them told them, hey, you need to hunt them down now.
And this is where Skyronema became a sickle. In which I also gained the boon of Skyronema.
Yep. Because he passed his test, the Skyronema kind of evolved in a sense. And then he became a sickle that did D8 slashing damage, or what is piercing? I think it's slashing.
Yeah, slashing.
And it also gained the ability to where only Vin can wield it, kind of like Mjolnir for Thor.
Yeah. Everyone else just couldn't pick it up, and
Yep.
I've had some fun with it.
Yeah. And that was kind of, by the way, and I don't know if I don't think I've ever told you this. The reason why he gave you that as your boon was so that the situation where you ended up giving him to somebody else
Yeah.
and running off with it was to avoid that again.
I also
like, no.
the boon also extended the duration that I could go without giving him blood.
Yes, from 3 days to 10.
Yes. After that, we were pretty much sent on our merry way to go and, take care of this. Let's see.
I love this. This was one of my favorite arcs. I feel like the Feywild's next, isn't it?
Let's see. Fortress of Memories. Oh, yeah, the next one was Fortress of Memories. After that...
No, Fortress of Memories was when you guys were having your test.
Well, we're still in... Well, it was the same session. Afterwards, we go on our merry way, and we're like, okay, Arian and Harlequin were thinking about going to Levia. I had different plans due to me wanting to go and actually do the quest.
PvP.
And this is where I became aware of the madness that they had. Because I was like, they're saying we need to go here. I was like, okay, I disagree. We need to go here. And that triggered Arian's madness. And so, not without a second hesitation, he started fighting me. In which eventually at first I won.
Harlequin was like, no! Alright, you're back up again. Cure wounds.
Yeah, Harlequin was like, he was fighting with himself on which one of me or Arian was trying to kill him.
Yep.
And so, he eventually, once I downed Arian, I was like, ugh. But Harlequin not resurrected, but brought him back up, and he sword butts me unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
At which he hog-ties me and throws me over his shoulder, and then brings me to Levia.
Off to Levia.
Which they then proceeded to go and try to find information. But after that, I said, okay, we're here. Can I at least go doing something in the city while you're doing your own thing? And he was like, all right. And so he let me go, which I quickly went to the Wishbone to talk to Samir about my current predicament.
Yep.
Which Samir quickly said, just bring him somewhere that can remove a curse or madness.
Yeah, to remove curse, which, there's a temple of Mishra, right in Levia.
And so, after a little bit of babysitting,
yeah,
most of which occurred in the Magic Delights bakery, we spent half a session in there, by the way.
Yeah.
Due to the
Wild Delights bakery is like a session favorite.
It's a time consumer.
It is. And I love it.
But after that, we got to the priest, after they said, okay, yeah, we know how to get rid of it, and they did. They got rid of it for a fee, and we went back down to the guild hall.
I would also like to add that the person who ended up getting rid of their madness is the same person that ended up resurrecting Harlequin the first time. Yeah, Elzevir Zorodont. They like when they are getting rid of that Ettercap quest a while back when Harlequin fell. They just found them basically traveling to the Emerald Scale. Was like, hey, we need to resurrect him. It was like, hey, just give me the money and I'll resurrect him. And then they found there and removed madness.
Yep. But right after that, we kind of split off into a sub-session where we were a party of the Click Clock Guild
Yes.
members. In which we went down, we hunted some rogue goblins. Well, to rescue rogue goblins that were being held by their original clan, the Iron Hour clan. Crick,
Just to let
Vinay.
you know,
Yeah?
soon there's gonna be another session like that,
Oh no.
but way cooler.
Oh no.
And sometime within this arc.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, we went off. I was playing Vinay, the rogue goblin. We were just kind of assigned to them.
Yeah.
It was pretty much a quick battle or two.
Yeah.
In which we rescued 3 more goblins for the Click
It
Clock.
was just like a little cool, like away from the pace type of little half session.
Yeah.
I did ask you guys previously, like, what are some classes that you'd like to play? That's how I ended up basing those classes. You said rogue.
Yeah.
And then monk was for Zachary, and then Sean just likes clerics. And this is where his backup character came into being.
Yep, and then we come to Under the Mavis Sands.
Mm-hmm.
After all was done, we still were looking for a way to get into the Feywild to meet up with Harlequin's old Fey friend. And he said that when he slept in his bedroom in his guild, he was often transported there. And so we decided, okay, we should sleep there. And so we went there, and I did some mischievously deceptive
for
things.
sneak rape.
Pretty much, I made them think that I deceptively made them think that me and Harlequin were a thing.
Yeah.
And so they actively thought that Harlequin went gay.
Yeah. And once you watch session 1, this will start clearing some things up when he gets back to his skill hall.
Yeah. Now after that, and it didn't work. We went back to Levia to get back with Arian, in which we were told to go and check out a crime scene caused by X. Of course, on our quest, we were like, okay, this is perfect. Along the way, moving across these sands on the way to Meva, Harlequin fell into like a ruined chamber, like ancient ruins, in which a dead blue dragon entangled in the skeletal remains of what actually was 2 guardian Nagas was. The Nagas regenerated as they do, and on the walls it depicted some stuff. Basically,
would you like me to explain what's depicted on the wall?
It depicts 2 creatures, one identified as Demogorgon, and the other a large rhino figure with 2 outstretched horns. There is another carving that depicts the same rhino being entangled by the roots of a large tree that within its leaves shows a star that has the right arm shaded in.
You cut it out for a good part of that. So the after the rhino depiction, there's another one that had a carving that had a tree that was entangling the rhino creature, and inside the leaves of the tree was a star having the right arm of the star shaded in as you're looking at it. If you're the star looking back, it'd technically be the left arm, but as you're looking at it, it's the right arm. I'm not gonna go there.
All right.
Right arm.
And basically, the Nagas, after they formed, was like, "Hey, we saw that you saw that, and we can't have you seeing that, so we're gonna block that off from your memory."
No, that's not what it was.
Oh?
They're like, we see that you saw that. we can't have you go on telling anybody about it. So we're gonna put a Gaia spell on you, and if you try to tell somebody, you're gonna hurt.
Right. And so that happened, and he was kind of just, well, let's see. Plays guns, escape after burn. Oh yeah, me and Arian had to fight a whole bunch of Thrycreen. And once we all gathered back together, we headed off and we found a Fey crossing.
Yes, the Fey crossing. So to keep the Fey crossing arcs short, it took them a while to figure out how to get into it until Harlequin was like, let me try the detect magic spell. Oh hey, there's a portal. There's a crossing right there. They ended up going into the crossing. They ended up fighting off a displacer beast, and Blink Dogs ended up aiding them. They didn't really need the help, but Blink Dogs were there. They're like, "Hey, let's get some food. I'm hungry. Let's go chomp down on this displacer beast that they're fighting."
Yep.
And then also another elf, an elven woman, came over after everything was said and done, and she was like, "Oh, that was my hunt." Well, do you guys want to come back with me so that I can we can have a feast on this creature and cook it up?
And we like, I was like, hell yeah,
let's go do that.
And so
they ended up going back to their little cabin, and there were two sisters. Brazier is the one that they met, who seemed to be like a ranger type person. And then there's also Mialana.
Yes.
And Brazier was like the hunter of the group. Mialana was the chef of the sisters and the person who kept the house cleaning and stuff. And long story short, they're given some information on how the Feywild works in this campaign.
Pretty much telling us after we told them our mission, they said, "Yeah, that's gonna be very difficult."
Yeah.
Considering the travel to where they best believe that we can find this Fey particular was a 4-month travel.
Yep.
In which we would come across a kind of field that would stop any non-pure Fey from getting through.
Not necessarily that it'd stop you, but it'd be dangerous to get past because of this magic that's in the air. So, remind me, Travis, what happened that night?
Well, Harlequin decided to do what every bard does, and they got jiggy with it. With the cook.
And Mialana. Yep.
Of course, I was like, fucking bards. And,
so,
yeah, that's where that one ended. And come the next session, Emotion Madness.
What happened at the very beginning of that session?
We woke up, and the house was deserted. All things of value were taken.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just completely deserted.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck Lynette. We're not doing this anymore.
And Harlequin at that point was like, yeah, fuck this. Let's go back.
And so we started looking for a way to get back.
You guys spent quite a while trying to find a way to get back.
And in kind of a trance, Arian finds a purple flame with a wavering skull inside fly off into the forest, which we were then exposed to emotion-shifting magic. I can't really remember what we all felt, but
so you guys felt a lot of emotion. What happened? It wasn't necessarily okay. So you guys ended up fighting a giant tree ant.
Yes.
This tree ant had like a purple energy coming out of it and was kind of just wrecking shit. It threw trees at you guys. I think it even picked you up at one point and just threw you.
Yep.
And it also had a action or legendary action where it could pound the ground and disperse the Fae particles. And in my campaign, the Fae is a very highly emotionally based place, while the Shadowfell is devoid of emotion. The Fae, while basically the energies just got like all scattered and jumbled around, and everybody had to make different D8 rolls and D10 rolls and stuff like that. And everybody just started feeling these heavy emotions throughout this fight. And it's sometimes would, depending on how strong the emotion was, it would sometimes impact what they would do. Most of the time it didn't, but every once in a while it would. But even after that, like the Fae energies around them just kind of corrupted them until they ended up leaving eventually, and they kept getting these emotional bursts, even without this treant thing. By the way, the treant Aryan just completely, once he got rid of it, he just like burn, 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 burn.
Eventually died.
And it eventually died.
After
the flaming skull, purple skull thing came out of it and then flew away.
Eventually, we found we came across an abandoned town that was filled with will-o-wisps. The town was completely leveled. We searched around for a bit. Got zapped a couple of times by the will-o-wisps. And eventually we started getting a little worried, considering they were now trying to surround us. And we thought, this is bad. In which a figure came walking out from the edge of the town.
And what was he? Or who was he?
He came and he revealed himself as an Alan Stanwyck. Yep. He was a wood elf cartographer who was mapping out the Feywild as much as he could. He had goals. Good for him.
Yeah, he had a lot of maps on him that did not even scratch how big the Feywild is.
And we decided, you know what, while we're here, we're gonna find out a way to get rid of what's going on here. So we searched out for whatever was plaguing the town, and eventually I find a hatch that leads down to a dungeon.
Yes.
I quickly blasted the lock off, and we went down. And we quickly find that there was a flaming skull in the dungeon, in which we were like, okay, we're not prepared for this kind of thing. So we all decided we were going to go and rest in Liamet's tiny hut, which took a minute to cast. And rather than just leaving and closing the door behind us, Arian decided it would be best if he fended off the flaming skull until then. Which did not end well for Arian, as fighting the flame skull, he fell. Which my character, Blood, was getting worried, so he went back to find Arian on the ground dying. And right before I could put the potion in his mouth to heal him, life left his body.
Literally.
Yeah.
As a will-o-wisp came out of him.
I was like, well, fuck. And so, after that,
will-o-wisp Arian following you for a little bit. You guys went down that same hallway, and then Arian was like, the will-o-wisp form was like, hey, I'll just phase through this door and see what's on the other side. He phases through the door and then immediately gets axed up by 2 skeleton minotaurs.
Yep, nope, and
thus Arian's soul was destroyed.
Couldn't even be brought to the Raven Queen. Just oblivion.
Couldn't be brought to the Raven Queen anymore.
Just oblivion.
God. So
after that, we decided, you know what? We're gonna explore this place as we fought through the dungeon, where we fought a beholder zombie. Mm-hmm. Arian's body, which had been, I guess, was being experimented on, was disintegrated during the battle. And we eventually found some parchments and all that written in Sylvan. After the beholder zombie fight, we leave the dungeon, saying, fuck this. Afterwards, we found our new companion, Arquin, the pureblood Inari draconic sorcerer, and
which basically, for those of you lore people, he was a kitsune.
Yeah.
A fox person, multiple tails.
Yeah. Pretty much. we've already described an RA at the start of this, but yeah. And he was like, hey, what's going on here? I was like, dungeon. And so, leading to the next session, Croatoan, which we find the word Croatoan carved on a tree in Sylvan, which was apparently a sign of an apocalypse.
Have you seen Supernatural?
No.
You should. It's a really good show. This is what I base this off of. That and the actual Croatoan, thing that like mysteriously happened. Like you could look that up on Wiki or something like that. I'm not going to go in depth of it. Basically, civilization just went missing.
Yeah. We can, with our newfound party member and some rest, we decided that, you know what? Fuck that. And we went back down into the dungeon.
You're cutting out a lot. He basically said they just went back down and was like, fucking that. Let's actually go back down.
And so eventually we go and we find our way through the dungeon, digging some custom tunnels, and we eventually find a one of secrets as well as unleashing something called a bone claw. It stabs me and teleports me away with him. The two left are deal with two mummies, but they were also aided by someone we found trying to pick a lock named Therian, who was a bard. After I eventually get back to the party, we eventually track down the Bone Claw and kill it, releasing the city from its will-o-wisp nightmare. Eventually, Tharian opens a portal to the material plane, which we all cross over.
And who comes back on the other side? Better yet, who doesn't come back on the other side?
Tharian?
Tharian.
Yeah.
He wasn't there. He went to the portal with you guys, and he didn't pop up on the other side.
Now, this is kind of where, that was like around the end of season 2, I guess you could say, as a big plot twist had come into effect. When we came back, it turns out that the, 2 weeks we had spent there, 2 years had gone by in the material plane.
Timey-wimey shit.
Yeah. And so we go and we try to figure out what's going on. And so which leads us into pretty much the beginning of season 3, the recuperating phase, Session 19, Fugitives. Arcwind and Harlequin go to Valen for separate reasons, while Blood heads to the Click Clock Clan Guild, because I figured out that they had founded their own guild, which I was like, no, I have to check this out. And so I went there and I wanted to speak to the leader.
Huh? Who wasn't there?
Yeah, and so I decided, you know what? I'm going to wait by their doorstep until I meet the guy.
In a tree near their doorstep.
And eventually, some Valen guards came by and said, Blood, you are under arrest.
Oh, shit.
I was like, wait, for what? It's like you conspired with the mass murderer known as X. I was like, oh, fuck. And so they bring me in, and Sergeant Zass and Hannah come in, and they say, all right, we're pretty goddamn confident you didn't do it, but a lot of evidence is stacked against you. And so they tried to prove my innocence, but it backfires, and Hannah became terrified of me due to the what was it, the Gauss spell?
It was the gayest spell that was placed on Harlequin.
Because she thought she could pry into Harlequin's memories to kind of confirm his alias of us being stuck in the Feywild for 2 years. And since his emotions were blocked, well, his memories were blocked, she thought that I did something to him.
Mm-hmm.
In
So,
which, go on.
what had happened? So the evidence that was stacked against you was the fact that your blood was traced back to the calling cards that X uses. It was traced back to 2 separate ones.
Yes.
And the thing that Hannah was doing with Harlequin to be able to probe his memory, or to try to see his arcane signature, is what it was called. She used his arcane circuits and kind of like just measured, like went within his arcane circuits to see if any spells was placed on him, to see if you had done anything to alter his memory. She found the Gaia spell.
And which in her mind, confirmed her beliefs. And she became terrified of me.
Yep.
After that, we realized our dire situation, and desperate situations require desperate measures.
What does Harlequin do?
He reaches his hand, he says, "Trust me," and he dimension doors us out of the prison. And out of the city. In which we have then pretty much, in the mind of the city, confirmed we were criminals. And
yeah, well, I mean, you resisted arrest, you broke free of imprisonment.
Well, I didn't resist arrest. I questioned it, but then I went along. But
yeah, you still, not that wasn't the right term, but you, what is it called when you literally just break free?
I don't know. We just broke out of prison.
Yeah, you broke out of prison. That's you can't do that.
Yeah, and so
you're a criminal for that.
We decided, all right. Zas even said, "Oh, I know what they're doing." Pretty much gave our Arcwind, who by the way was Sergeant Zass's fiance.
Yep.
Said, just bring them their stuff and tell them that they gotta track down X and bring him in for his crimes, and that should clear Blood's name. And eventually, we set off to hunt him. Eventually, we've made our first stop at the Click Clock clan to enlist their aid in hopes that they would join us to gain reputation for their guild, since they weren't very liked by the world. After they said, "We'll think about it," we set off to Grimfell, considering that's the most common appearance for X. While we were while we were camping, we were ambushed by 3 bounty hunters, but eventually we came out victorious without any casualties.
Yeah, because you keep in mind that both Harlequin and Blood at this point had a price on their head.
Yes.
If they had broken free.
Once in town, basically getting me searching for some plate armor that I got from one of the bounty hunters refitted. We mistakenly thought that Hexblades were proficient in heavy armor.
Yeah, that's not the case. They're not proficient in heavy armor.
I got it refitted, and while the other 2 stops at a fortune teller's booth read that has a crowd formed around it. The fortune teller was a female tiefling named Capri that goes by her future name Lady Fortune, which pretty much she does a kind of a tarot reading, which the first card reveals to us that our target is a traitor among their kind, and the second reveals that we need to find a tempter or a temptress in order to find the target. I drop off my armor, and immediately Blood is immediately suspicious of Cabri, and I kind of question her a little. And when she leaves, when she gives me basically the same reading, She leaves Harlequin. Well, she leaves, and Harlequin follows her under the invisibility spell, and they eventually get to an inn.
She notices though.
Yes.
Like as they're going down, as they're walking down the road to the inn, she stops and she's like, "Hey, I know you're there.
Yes.
You can stop the bullshit." Then they end up going to the inn.
Once everyone gets there, including me, we find the Tempter, known as Arya, a female human that was going around partying with everyone in the inn, flirting, drinking, dancing. I decide I have a little plan. So what I do is I successfully seduced this Arya, paid for a room, and I do the deed, sleeping with her, only to wait until she passes out to tie her up to the bed when she is asleep. And Harlequin gets some money downstairs by playing his lute.
Yeah.
And eventually, when the morning came at the start of the next session, we interrogated Arya. And she eventually agreed, to, after some threatening, to cut off her titties, to lead us to where we can find X. She eventually leads us to a caravan where we find a couple of people. A man with torch-like hair and black skin, Capri, and what was driving a wagon with, what was driving it?
The Nightmane?
Yeah, with a, basically a lion with a fire mane. Pretty much a nightmare, but lion.
Yep.
They eventually lead us to a rock in the ground that led us into a cave where we met up with the same very group of primordials that we were tasked to hunt down and exterminate.
A fairly large group, too.
Yes, it was evident to Blood that I could not deal with them at this time.
You guys were in the lair of primordials. Mm-hmm.
And so, after some talking with them, we found that X had been encased in crystal in there. And we were like, oh, we need him. And they said, yeah, we know. Listen. Well, they basically explained that X had one of their friends trapped inside of them, which they needed to expel.
X himself wasn't a primordial, but he was using one.
Yes. And which we then went on to have a ritual to excise the primordial from X.
What was the key component that they needed for this ritual?
My blood.
And why did they need your blood?
Because X was another tiefling of Grisette and was supposed to be the first marked body that I was supposed to inherit.
I mean, not necessarily first. There's multiple, but
well, yeah,
this is one of them.
This is also where the primordial told me about my curse.
Yep, this is where the primordials told you about all this.
Which I was like, oh, fuck, okay. That's new. After that, we pretty much did the ritual, and pretty seamlessly, we brought X back to Valen, where he was then hung for his crimes.
You cut out during that.
We brought X into the city, turned him in. We were forgiven, and X was hung for his crimes.
Yeah.
Afterwards,
and just like that, X was dead.
After that, we went and I went in search of the Raven Queen, considering
The Raven Queen.
considering Arcwind and Harlequin were talking about getting goody-goody with the Primordials, which went directly against the Raven Queen's quest. Blood was mad about this, considering their dead comrade was a follower of the Raven Queen, and Blood believed that his pretty much last dying wish would have been to complete the Raven Queen's directly given holy quest. And so he went off to ask the Raven Queen what to do, in which he eventually finds a shrine to the Raven Queen, prays to the Raven Queen, and gets an answer in the form of a card similar to Capri's cards that says, "Find the Raven." After this, I look around. After bumping into a Kenku,
This was the biggest fuck you of the campaign.
in which I very much was like, Kenku, they look like Raven. It's the Raven! In which I grabbed the Raven, I grabbed the Kenku by the throat, bring him to the shrine, and saying, why do I need to find you? And he was like,
no, I'm not the Raven!
In which I then tried to slit his throat. He quickly escaped, and I was like, damn. And so I went back to the statue to where I found our guild master Rylan crying. In which, in the next session, I found she was crying because she couldn't speak with the Raven Queen anymore.
Who is supposedly her mother.
And so she also saying that her mask, which was her direct connection to Altair,
was gone.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay. Obviously, I meant to help her find the mask. So I was like, you know what? I'll help you find the mask. And she's like, okay, we should probably go search in the Shadowfell. I was like, okay, I know where I think I can find one of those. Eventually, we decide, okay, before we do this, we need to rest because it's getting nighttime. So we camp outside the city. I wake up. She's gone. I find Dragon Prince, in which I believe she'd been kidnapped by a dragon. I do some scouting in the area to kind of look to see which direction the dragon took off, asked around, and went off in the general direction where I believe it went after collecting the rest of the party. Eventually, on a random encounter roll of a 12, which is a deadly encounter, by the way, we came across blue dragons, young blue dragons.
There was, I think, 3 wormlings and 1 young blue dragon. Or no, 2 young blue dragons. No,
during this encounter, we managed to make the blue dragon and one of the wormlings flee. But in my mind, I was like, they could be the dragons that have Rylan. So we decided to go down into their burrow, which I'm actually quite surprised blue dragons burrow, considering their canonical nature.
No, they burrow.
Yep. And so we followed them down there, and
I mean, they can fly too, but
yeah. We quickly got our asses handed to us as there were more dragons down there than we thought, in which we met our fate.
Yeah, welcome to the nest of blue dragons. Where else would blue dragons flee to?
Yeah.
So they fled back to their nest. And by the way, they took an 8-hour break, an 8-hour long rest before they went into the hole. So the blue dragons had plenty of time to get to their nest, prepare, and they're not dumb. They're not like blue dragons aren't like super smart, I don't think, but they're not dumb either.
Yeah.
And basically they kind of set up for when they would come down, and ended up it was the first TPK.
Yep. After that, I woke up in a completely different continent in the midst of a battlefield in a whole new body. And I was like, oh, okay. I died.
Mm-hmm.
And so I quickly do what I can to escape from the battlefield and find a voyage back to to my home continent. Interject to transition into my other character and the in-between, where we
this is where Fahana, Freehez, Hit Stuff, and Shard initially came in.
Yes. As they were all gathered to by and pretty much told by Sergeant Zass collectively about monster attacks that were happening in towns, and which we were sent off to try to help. We originally were planning to help defend, Valen?
No, it was Maeva from the UNT.
Yes.
There's talk that there was going to be an attack from the UNT.
However,
but then everything happened all at once, and multiple attacks at multiple cities, and they're like, okay, we need more people over here in Norwich to help defend against the other captain now.
Yeah, and so we went there, we picked up Loki, the stray kitty, and we went there, and we fought Ettercaps for a bit, and Hit Stuff died.
Yep.
After that, I quickly came to the mainland. I found the city I landed in destroyed by Sahagan. I quickly tried to sell the weapons and armor from the corpses. Because I should let everyone know that my character, before he died, had an armor class of 19, working on 20. All I needed was to get to level 7, and then I could take the feat I need. In fact, actually, hold up.
Medium armor master.
What, level 7, I believe, gains an ability point. I'll get into that later.
Not the time.
So, I go and I desperately try to get what I can. I get some basic armor, like some very, very basic armor, just to get me through, considering I wasn't proficient in what I was wearing. Since I kind of spawned into the body of a fighter.
And you're not a fighter, you're a warlock. I'm like, no, I need to be able to
yeah.
Pew, pew.
And so I eventually make my way to everyone. I bump in. Well, no, correction. I make my way to the only familiar place I know where I think people would be. The Emerald Scale.
And once you get there, that's where you get you try to go to the Emerald Scale Guild, but you remember that in order to get into the Emerald Scale, you need to have your Emerald Scale,
which was on my corpse.
Whole body. So the Emerald Scale is basically in a demi-plane that you can't access unless you have the scale, or you're with somebody that has a scale. So you end up camping out for the night, and then you wake up and you're hogtied by a hag, and you're being drugged, and then I think you managed to escape, right?
Yeah, I was managed to break out of the ropes, and I hit her pretty hard, and she turned me into a chicken.
With polymorph.
Yes.
And then you tried to escape from her arms as a chicken, and she was able to keep a hold of you.
But luckily,
the party came in.
Luckily, I left a message in sticks in front of the guild hall saying, "I am blood."
That's it.
As well. And when they found Skyronema, laying in front of the guild hall, Freehez quickly is reminded of it, and they see the track marks. The drag marks as they quickly follow them, and they free me from the hag's clutches, in which I explain some of the stuff. I party up with them as we go out, and let's see.
So after that experience with the Ettercaps and then getting the information from the guilds, you guys left out to go and investigate the goblin raids.
Yes.
That will happen at Ormont, and specifically that specifically Freehez wanted to do that because they're from his old clan, the Iron Hour clan,
Who were posing as Click Clock
who were
Global.
posing as Click Clock members. So they ended up going to Ormont and there, and they found a fellow Emerald Scale member, Rael, who is an Inari monk ape man. And then they end up going to the Iron Hours base and burning up the front gates with fire and busting through like badasses, and then going in, defeating some hobgoblin general. Getting two of them, Loki and Shard, end up getting some jewelry out of some chests. And they clear out the cave only to realize that the leader's not even there. There's also a God, what is that thing called? It starts with a T.
I can't remember.
Tyrannarac?
Maybe.
Yeah, I can actually pull it up. It is under monsters. It is under Fiend, I believe. A Tenera. Yeah. They face off against a Tenera and end up winning fairly easily.
Yeah, and after that, we pretty much headed to, I believe, Valen. No,
You went
Levia.
to Levia, and the other two went to Ormont real quick to give them the severed pinkies of the goblins because they asked. And then they went to Levia. Then they went to Levia to sell their jewelry, getting some gold. And there was also a magic item among that jewelry, which they ended up selling.
We also, after that, we pretty much we took a quest.
Mount Terran.
Yeah, we took there was.
You guys.
Go ahead.
You guys went to Mount Terran in order to be able to face off against the Earth Primordial, or not Earth Primordials. Well, I mean, technically Elementals are Primordials, but Earth Elementals, and faced off against them. You guys ended up winning the fight. You took down the Earth Elemental Myriadon, but and we're almost able to take out the Earth Elemental, but then just phased into the ground and just left.
Yeah.
The Myriadon, though, however, after you guys took a rest, you realize the Myriadon's gone. The body as well as the armor it was wearing is gone. And then you guys try to collect your word. What? The problem was not taken care of because they could be anywhere in the mountain now. Whoever summoned that Myriadon here could be re-summoning another Earth Elemental to bind it to the armor. And then everybody was like, well, fuck this. And then you guys ended up leaving and going back to Levia, and then you guys went to the Wishbone again to... What did you go to the Wishbone for?
I went to the Wishbone
Before you guys were leaving, you can go ahead and explain Skyronema's deal.
Skyronema, like I said, it requires hatred. Bloodshed by hatred. That's what it likes most. And it kind of was like, hey, listen, you haven't been hated. You don't hate things enough right now. I need you to hate things more.
It's more that he needed blood from things that you hated. You hate things, you're just not taking blood. So take the Earth Elementals, for example. You hate the Earth Elementals, you can't draw blood from Earth Elementals. There's also a slide fight. You guys ended up having a slide fight where you guys met back up with the what's the demon called?
Nalfeshni.
The Nalfeshne. You guys ended up seeing the Nalfeshne, and the Nalfeshne was rotting because your blood had his heart.
Yeah.
And now the heart, and he's trying to find it. He's trying to get it back, and his body's rotting away.
But yeah, we quickly kind of dispatched of them. We don't know it, but we have some tadpoles in us.
Yeah. The problem that Skyrim is having with you right now is that you're not using Skyrim to actually draw blood from anything living. You're just giving him buckets of blood from just buckets of blood.
And so he said, "Listen, you need to find something you hate and shed its blood." Yep. As well. Also, by the way, there's something in there's still the other soul of the body you're currently taking control of, and it's kind of fighting you for it.
Yep. And that was also getting rid of the connection that Skyrim was having, or was blocking the connection that Skyrim could talk to you outside of going into this incorporeal plane in your brain.
Yeah.
Basically, Skyrim stabbed you. You had to make a con save. You succeeded to stop the con save. Who was it? Shard that picked it up, or Freehez picked it up? And then Skyrim was like, "No, I'm going to stab him again." And Skyrim stabbed you again until you failed.
And then
and that's where you had this conversation inside your brain, like, "Hey, give me some hatred blood." Oh yeah, and there's this another soul that was still in the body when you took.
Yeah, and so I went to the biggest magical person I knew, Samir.
And what did he do?
He gave me a card that I recognize as one of Capri's.
And this card would be able to get you in connection with Capri.
In which I wrote a message, burned it, and sent off after leaving the shop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we should also say about how Harlequin came back.
You cut out.
We should also talk about how Harlequin came back.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a pretty important deal. Okay, so Harlequin ended up coming back from. So Fahana ended up going back to her school for a little bit. She wasn't even a part of the Goblin, and she just kind of went back to her school and had a side quest where she and her fellow student that she knows.
Oh, you're cutting out a lot.
With short black hair and yellow eyes, ended up saying, "Hey, I want to resurrect my dad. Do you want to come with me?" And then Fahana was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
They ended up going.
Y'all remember the elf that we were talking about? He did the deed with? Yeah.
Yep.
He knocked her up.
Yep. This is the end result. Faith is the end result. And then they ended up using Tree Stride with one of the Faith's fellow companions, Nirvana. Ended up going directly to Damascus Castle, where they went in and gave this druid dude a scroll. He was like, "Okay, I can use this," and then he started reading some scroll, and then Harlequin woke up in not an astral plane, but in like a little demi-plane type thing, where he is floating, and where he met the god Oberon, who said, "Hey, I'll resurrect you. I want you to sign this contract here and sign away your name to me."
Oh, by the way, no one else will remember what your name was.
Yeah, no one will remember your name either. You won't even remember your name. Just give it to me. I want it. So Harlequin signed away his name, and now is going by his virtue name, Poetry, and everybody knows him as such.
And he was resurrected.
And he was resurrected. What Oberon plans on using his name is yet to be determined. We will find that out in the future, and maybe, unless Harlequin does again, then
And
who knows?
Pretty much after we left the shop, that's actually where session 1 starts off.
Yep.
So
I should also add, there is still a little side bit that people kind of forgot about. There's two things that I want to bring up that you guys kind of just went past. The first thing is that Faith owes this druid person a favor.
Yes.
which has not been discussed, and she says, yes, I'll do it. That hasn't been discussed very far. Another thing, I want to go back to when you guys extracted the primordial from X. What did the soul look like when they took the primordial out?
It looked like a flaming skull.
What color was this flaming skull?
It was purple, correct?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What did you guys run up against in the Feywild?
Oh. Huh.
You see how everything's clicking. Everything ding 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 ding.
All right.
I realized like nobody like as we were talking about it and we're talking about the skull, I was like, yeah, nobody really ever figured that out. It was pretty like.
Well, to be fair, it was like a 3 week
sessions. Yeah, several sessions, but it just never came up. By the way, Sean and Zach are still in the chat. Do you see that?
Oh my god.
I'm surprised they're still up.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all are all caught up.
How long was this? God.
We started at like what, 10:45?
Yeah.
That's about.
This was long. Okay, so if you stuck through with this, thank you very much. I'm glad that you guys did, and I know that on my end, if you're watching on my end, Travis chops up a lot.
And on my end, he chops up sometimes as well. So hey, gives you incentive to watch both the videos.
Or almost every word.
Yeah. But yeah. Make sure to. I'm definitely going to be posting sessions from now on. So definitely. Yeah. I'll put a link down in the description to Troy's both Twitch and YouTube channel. So go and check that out. So wait, if you can actually hear the parts that he cuts out on. Also watch mine for well, I guess you're already watching it. If you're on his channel and watching it, make sure to come to mine and watch the parts that I cut out on in clarity.
Watch these 3-hour videos twice.
Yes. But yeah, make sure to hit that subscribe button, ding that bell, press that like button. Hell, leave a comment down below to let us know what you think. And I am looking very forward to posting these. I'm very excited.
I am too. And I'm looking forward. And also, we're going to be streaming these every Sunday from 6 o'clock Eastern Standard to 10 o'clock aroundish. Sometimes it might go past depending on work schedules and whatnot.
Yes.
And I think it's about time for us to sign off. It's getting really late.
Yeah, it's like 1:06.
Yeah, it's 1:06 a.m. So I'm Troy Smith, also known as Valor the Allagan Gamer over at Allagan Gaming. You can find me there on YouTube and Twitch. I also have a Twitter account that at some point I'll start posting on. I have not done so yet. I think I've also got a Facebook account. I will get to that once they start getting a streaming schedule going. And then we got Travis of VaprilFoolz. You can find him on Twitch as well and YouTube. Yep. I don't know. Do you have any social medias?
I did make a Twitter for the account. I've only made one kind of post on it, though. It's not even really a post. It's more like a reply to one of Markiplier's posts. But yeah, go follow that. I'll probably put a link in the description for it.
Yeah, and go subscribe to Markiplier while you're at it.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's it. I'm very thankful for everybody for staying here. I had a lot of fun. I always have a lot of fun during these sessions, and I'm glad that we're able to give this out to you guys as well. So,
join us on this adventure, and we'll see you next time.
Yep.
All right, see ya.
Signing off.